Hey guys, welcome back to Globetrotter Gaming. Today we'll be moving on to part 19 of our gameplay of Suzerain. Let's get going. So the last part was pretty uneventful, kind of like the part before it. We mainly were just driving to this I want to say, conference in this faraway city over here. It was Narbel, and really it was just kind of the driver Serge just talking about his family and everything, and trying to, I think it was really talking about just how like the policies are affecting the average person. So didn't really get a whole lot done. I see we have something else going on in Narbel, but I just want to see what's going on in the news here. So the protests are starting to calm down a bit, which shows that maybe the whole domestic security slash stabilization thing is starting to work better, so that's probably a good sign there. So the Green Act, a misdirected effort, and attacker opens fire on... Jeez. Okay, so that's this is extremely violent, and this is talking about how it's calming down. So, okay, that's hopefully this is a newer one then. So tourism bill signing deserves applause. So yeah, that one was a big one, I know. Education privatization proven successful. I was seeing if anything. Sol needs to answer for his crimes. And CSP workers... Okay, anyway, it looks like, things are starting to kind of turn on a little bit. Like, I pointed this out in the last two ones, where you can see the growth is kind of still downhill, but starting to even out a little bit, and hopefully turns up soon. And it seems like things are starting to get a little more stable in terms of the turmoil and everything. So, I feel like things are starting to get in the right direction, but I know this game is meant to be kind of an ongoing challenge with some twists and everything. Let's see what's going on in Narbel. We have the briefing on the current welfare situation, so let's just get right to it. So I arrived at the meeting room for my talk with Ciara and Pascal. Before beginning, I took a moment to appreciate the view from the balcony. The mountains were completely covered in snow. While I was mesmerized by the scenery, Pascal Benawol walked up to me. So I had to say Pascal with it spelled with a K. My Minister of Health. Oh, so this is who this guy was. It really doesn't establish any of these things until they start working. So he was ironically somewhat portly, having gained a few pounds since his breakthrough as a best-selling author, but his authority in social affairs cannot be questioned. Such a spectacular view. And then Ciara Walda, the Minister of Education, joined us on the balcony. Her preference for trousers over dresses made her the subject of much palace gossip, but didn't seem to bother her. Spectacular indeed, but if you look in the opposite direction, you will see what Sol's decades of neglect did to the city. Most of the people living in Narbel are workers, farmers, and their wives and children. They're breaking their backs for close to no pay thanks to greedy corporations. See, I feel like she's trying to be more of a communist with it, or socialist, which I really want my guy to be, free market guy, but I still want to see what she has to say. My intention is to help the working class, whatever. I'd much rather be in Whole Sword. We can't really blame the companies. I'm gonna say the working class, because I know, like, you gotta help the companies to get more jobs and everything, but I don't want to seem like I'm just there to help the companies. I'm glad we see eye to eye. If you look past the view, you can see the real problems like poverty. Pascal nodded. This was a subject he knew quite a bit about. His best-known books are about the plight of Sordland's less fortunate. Well put, Miss Walda. I don't need to tell you about my own experience with poverty, and you've been through similar hardships yourself, Mr. President. Feels like the cards are stacked against you. We've all gone through... I'm gonna say that one there. True, but some lives are more difficult than others, like ours was, and still is, for hundreds of thousands in Sordland. You don't have to have been born poor to sympathize with the plight of the impoverished, much as you don't have to be born a woman to recognize Sordland's need for parity among the sexes. Parity among the sexes shouldn't be our first priority. Look at how many high-ranking female politicians we have. I feel like they're gonna start having a dispute there, kind of like I feel like it was like the military general guy, and then one of the other advisors had kind of a feud during one of the previous meetings. So appearances can sound deceiving, Pascal. Think about how Lilius Graf got to her current position. I don't necessarily believe the rumors about her and Sol, so it implies they had some sort of a side thing going on. Gloria Tori is an accident that the first female assembly speaker is such a staunch conservative. And there was Alfonso's habit of promoting women to prominent positions to give Sordland a progressive sheen while accomplishing nothing. I do see her points with this. I think she's being a little negative, but it seems like she is kind of pointing out a lot of the flaws with it, where it's kind of a phony veil to make it seem like there's, equality between men and women. So while women in places like Narbel are denied any opportunities, the government can use a handful of female politicians from wealthy families to pretend their only obstacle is their lack of initiative. Meanwhile, those of us who don't use our clout to help powerful men stay in power are denigrated as angry spinsters. Does anyone care that your strategist, Mr. Galati, doesn't have a wife? You veered off topic, Miss Walda. Leave Lucian out. I've been wondering about that, actually. I agree with you completely. Sordland's women deserve better. I'm just gonna say that, because I know that's also a big thing his wife is fighting for, is equality there, so I'm gonna have to agree with that. I'm glad to hear that. As I was saying, isn't it about time Wholesword addressed the country's real issues, rather than bowing to the wishes of the hawks and fearmongers, and diverting yet more resources? Our welfare, healthcare, and education systems have been decaying since the recessions. Okay, I kind of get the point, CR. You're kind of going on a little bit more now. I feel like she already kind of said that before, and now it's just elaborating on what she already said. But homelessness and lack of opportunities can drive people to extreme solutions. We're saying increased... Okay, yep, I get it, Sierra. Will this Grafford take care of crime? She's an expert. Those issues need to be tackled from different directions. If only we could stop the recessions, create jobs and growth. The capital must be prioritized towards the resources that matter most. That's a hard one. I'm going to say engage it holistically. I'm planning to help by using an increased budget to improve the quality of healthcare. That could prove useful, but we need to be doing a lot more. There is another subject I want to mention. I've been working on improving the rights of workers in our country and have proposed a draft bill that is currently being reviewed. Mr. Clavin has already backed me and given us support. Sordland has fallen behind in most countries on this subject, and it is my responsibility to ensure that this is not the case. I could kind of see that being a good thing. So I agree we need to improve the standards. I could also see it making it, like, more challenging for companies to hire. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that's how it is in real life, but I feel like that's something this game might try to, you know, throw a curveball on. But let's just kind of see how it goes. There's room for improvement, and it's good to hear you're pushing for it. We shouldn't upset the businesses. I'm gonna say there's always room for improvement. You know, it kind of gives, like, a sort of a, you know, yeah, a good thing, but doesn't really, like, fully endorse the issue. I appreciate the kind words, Mr. President. I will not let you down. It is also a matter of life and death. Every decade we hear of some horrific accident due to employers' disregard for their workers' safety. So, will you back the bill when it arrives? I'll be very interested in supporting it once it's finished. To make a decision, I will need to evaluate the contents. I don't think this is the time for such a change. I'm just gonna have to say that, give kind of a non-answer. Understandable, you'll receive all the sections in an outline. It's getting a little cold out here. Shall we continue our discussion indoors? Went back inside. It was already prepared for state business. Let's start with your health overview. Tell me about your plans, Ciara. I'm gonna say that first, because I kind of want to see what she has to say, which I know kind of what he's going at. So Sordis education is free, but we have a very outdated system I want to reform. The other important issue is the lack of access to education, especially for young girls. Your administration has the power to solve both problems. My highest priority is to get enough funding to be able to build schools in rural areas while I cleanse our educational system of its nationalistic indoctrination. What is the literacy rate? Tell me about the difference between urban and rural. How many students and teachers? I feel like that's kind of a good way to touch on it. There are about 5 million students, 3 million in primary, 1 million secondary, 1 million in tertiary, and 155,000 teachers. Sordland is full of young and bright minds. We should keep striving to make education available. It's full of potential. I'm going to say that one, because, like I said, I feel like education is the area that we really do need to focus on, and that's kind of what I made his you know, main issue to be about. Excuse me. So I think there needs to be a change in what is being taught. We should help children to ask questions and educate themselves. I do agree there. We're urban and rural, or let's see what the literacy rate is. It's probably like 60%. 80%, okay. Very good indicator for future growth, but it needs to increase. I do agree there. If I remember correctly, the most illiterate areas are Bergia and Eggland. That's correct, although Lockhaven skews the statistics for the largest region, which also has a vast number of illiterate citizens. And let's just ask about urban and rural. I feel like rural's going to be like way below what urban is. Urban areas have 3 times the number of schools per 10,000 compared to rural areas. Okay, I get that, Sierra. That's not a very good ratio. This is one of the most important problems we face, if not the most important. A huge part of the population is forgotten in terms of welfare. So thank you, Sarah. I can fill the blanks in from here. Yeah, I'm going to try to want to go... I need to do something about education. Like I said, like 5 times in this video, because that was the main issue there, and I also kind of do believe that if you can build up education, then you can really try to help build up overall for the nation there. So I'm going to really try to focus on that. I think that could help kind of, you know, turn it around there if it's not anything, you know, that's going to use up like the entire government budget or something. So let's see what the healthcare system is. So what's Pascal going on? So it's got free healthcare system except for a few private hospitals operating under it. That's kind of what Serge was mentioning in the last part about how his wife gave birth at one of the private hospitals, but most of the populace receives adequate treatment. Health issues primarily appear in rural areas due to lack of quality services. I'm doing my best to ensure that citizens of all ages receive the best health care they can. I also personally want to solve our high infant and maternal mortality problem. How many doctors and nurses? How many hospital beds? Let's ask about this first. 10 beds per 10,000 citizens. Well, I guess that's not terrible compared to this. I would have said 1 per 1,000. It seems low, but I guess based on that second sentence, that's not too bad. It's higher than the countries of Agnolia and Wayland, but obviously can't match Lesbia or Valxland. Agnolia and Wayland should hardly be used as a standard, but it's good to know we aren't in a massive health crisis. How many doctors and nurses? What's the life expectancy? That's kind of 65 years. Okay, wow, that's these are some pretty bad results there. So yeah, that's something we need to try to turn around as well. I assure you, we're doing everything we can to save mothers and their newborns. Those numbers are saddening indeed. Thank you, Ciara. That's exactly what I just said there. I agree, we must do everything we can. We are working very hard in improving the quality of the services. So how many doctors and nurses? We have 31,000 doctors and 73,000 nurses. This is a high number. What I think is, I don't want to be rude, but out of those numbers, how many are in the urban and rural areas? Good point, Ciara. So the data shows that per 10,000 people in urban areas, there are about 11 doctors, while in rural areas, there are only 3. Yeah, that's a pretty big discrepancy there. In other words, rural citizens... Excuse me. In other words, rural citizens with medical emergencies have to wait an embarrassingly long time before they are treated. Thank you, Pascal. Your in-depth briefing is much appreciated. I believe that is everything. Ciara stood up and moved towards the window. She took a deep breath. So what is it, Ciara? Look at this impoverished city. The streets full of potholes, the hospital barely functioning, the school half open. I feel like we just went over all this. Like, I get where she's going at, but I feel like that's just kind of being pretty redundant. This is not just about Sol or even Alfonso failing. This decay in Sordland's forgotten regions has been going on for many decades. Okay, she's of course bringing up capitalism with it. Tark and Sol did more for the country than any of us. Let's not get into an ideological debate. We're here to change that trend and provide for the people. Pascal, what do you think? I'm going to say let's not get in an ideological debate. One cannot be separated from the other, Mr. Rayne. Ciara sat back down inside. One way or another, we need change in Sordland. Greed and unchecked capitalism will not magically provide for the people. I'm going to see what she has to say about it, at least. My plans required an increase in the government budget. I aim to solve the problems we highlighted with the allocated money. By building schools in these less fortunate and rural areas, and through fundamental changes, I will unlock the potential of all children. Improving the situation in rural areas is good. Our election mandate was to improve education. We will deliver on this. Interesting, I thought our problem was with the quality of education. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna have to go on that, because I did, you know, agree to that. So, unlike most politicians, I gotta keep my promise on that, at least. This brings hope to the table, which needs to be followed by action. There is much more to be done. But if we're given the budget, we can implement policies that push education to the next level. Wouldn't a promotion of private education help create additional funds? Yes, but at what cost? I'm not a supporter of the private sector in education. So let's see what Pascal's doing. I personally want to improve the low quality of healthcare in the rural areas, so I created draft plans to increase the salary of doctors and to upgrade the equipment of the hospitals. I can do more with an increased budget. Additionally, a privatization plan to remove private investments in the healthcare system could allocate extra funds. So isn't access to healthcare in rural areas an issue? I'm going to say access there. Access is an issue, but not as critical as improving the quality in these areas. The lack of experienced personnel and equipment causes poor treatment. See, I think it needs to be kind of a combination of both, like quantity and quality, because if you can't see a doctor at all, then obviously that's not good, but if you're seeing a doctor and they don't know what they're doing, then that's also pretty bad. So I do hope to create competition and increase the quality of healthcare with the privatization effort. I do agree with him there. I don't personally believe in private healthcare. I mean, it's hard to say, really. I'm not going to go on my own issues there, or my own beliefs there, but I don't really like full-on privatization, but this might be also the best approach there. You must realize that privatizing our healthcare system would increase the price of treatment. The decision to promote more state control would cost the Swordlish people dearly. My expectation from our government is that we understand and focus on the needs of the people. We are elected representatives, there are other significant issues, and I appreciate your briefing and plans. We will reconvene at the budget meeting. I'm gonna go with that. We'll kind of see how it is when it comes up then. So, it was a pleasure. See you at the meeting. Hope to see change in direction. Did we cover all the necessary subjects? One more thing. I wish to raise my concerns about your scheduled meeting with the GASOM chairman and former president, Mr. Alfonso. By negotiating with Alfonso and his company, you have an opportunity to secure better labor conditions for blue-collar GASOM employees. Maybe if I could find, like, some sort of trade-off where, we can get more favorable results from GASOM, but also get the, better labor conditions, that might be a good, way to do it. What is there to negotiate, Pascal? The standards for GASOM workers are already at rock bottom. He can and must demand better. Nevertheless, it's worth acknowledging the corporation's significant contribution to job creation in Narbel and other poverty-stricken regions. My foremost priorities lie in improving the economy. Once that's achieved, upward mobility will naturally follow suit. What good is job creation if the workers are treated poorly? I know how slippery Alfonso could be, or if we do this right, we can find a solution that advances both the economy and the interests of the laborers. That's what I'm going to go with, because I feel like that's really the area I'm trying to touch on there. That would be quite the impressive feat. You'd make headlines for it. The matter is close to my heart. I would personally be grateful if you were able to resolve the concerns raised by Katerina Horton and her fellow labor representatives. Is she like a union leader or something? Yeah, the labor union of Sordland. It would be difficult to imagine a CEO like Alfonso giving benefits to workers without him personally gaining from it. Considering our need for greater energy security, we might find ourselves forced to collaborate. In this world, nothing is truly free. GASOM relies on us just as we rely on them, or GASOM has profited from the labor of workers for far too long. It's time for them to give back. Let's see, that's, I'm gonna say we can find a path to compromise. The middle way often sways perilously close to the status quo. We must ensure that any negotiations generally reflect the people. Thank you for your input, Ciara, but I will stress to President Rayne how important it is that the door to dialogue remains open. Ideology should never get in the way of bringing about tangible, lasting change. I'm skeptical these discussions with Gaston will lead to change. I'm encouraged by the willingness of Mr. Manger and Mr. Alfonso. I can't promise anything. I disagree. I'm going to say I'm encouraged by the willingness. We shall keep you no longer. Thank you both for the discussions. I do hope we won't repeat the same mistakes again and again. Have a good day, Mr. President. As they left, I prepared to leave for another official business in the city. The GASOM meeting was just one of the many events I was scheduled to attend. As I made my way out, the weather was noticeably cold. Excuse me. But it didn't keep a group of USP supporters from coming out to cheer us on the streets. By looking at the citizens' attire, it was easy to understand the current state of Narbel. Some people were even wearing clothes a few sizes too large. Some of the kids didn't have shoes. They were excited to see their president in their city. Okay, so yeah, I'd say that was a pretty productive one there. I feel like it, while it didn't necessarily, like, touch on settling any direct issues, I think it gave, like, a really good overview of the goals for education and healthcare, and, kind of the area that really needs to be focused on for that. So, I feel like it's getting really challenging with trying to balance those, especially with the limited budget and everything, but I do feel really confident, and I'm excited to see where this continues to progress. So that's going to do it for Part 19, and stay tuned for Part 20. Thanks again.